아니요 위질르 기에서 그야다 네가 다니자다 나세시 나는 너의 헬리 르엘리 샤이 아야지 사야기 돌리자 Galalani Giatato Listaneho Asenochi Yaflogogu
Jalaki yasli sayunduli, Jalaki de kanogiste ala I diwoniska iki yohu sati.
Call this meeting to order. Mr. Baker, would you do us the honor of the invocation, please? Everyone, please stand.
Bow with me, please. Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this beautiful weather. And on this holiday coming up, give everybody safe travel to and from. And bless us and help us to make good decisions for the Cherokee people. And guide and direct our decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Meredith Brady. Here. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Bill Angel.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Audra Connor. Carol Callan Watts. John Garvin. Chuck Hoskins. Bill Johnson.
Here.
John Keener. Jackie Bob Martin. Linda O'Leary. Melvina Shophouse. David Thornton. Phyllis Yard.
Honey. We do have a quorum. Okay, if everyone would be so kind as to put your phones either on vibrate or silent so it's not disruptive of the meeting. I appreciate it. 10:09. Okay, first item on the agenda for this 10 o'clock meeting is the legal implications and interpretation of constitutional provisions for redistricting. Ms. Hammonds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would invite Mr. Henry or Mr. King, if they have anything to add, to help me out here. I passed out to you a little 2-page stapled handout that is just those provisions of the 99 Constitution dealing with districting. Under Article 5 of the legislative section, we'll be looking at bottom paragraph of Section 3 on the first page and talking about the first paragraph on the second page. We've looked at laws from other jurisdictions of the United States, and I was looking at a Texas case this morning. A lot of the case law dealing with districting from other jurisdictions is not particularly applicable to us, except as to its general provisions, because those jurisdictions are often dealing with questions of gerrymandering under partisan lines or excluding ethnic groups. One of the Texas cases dealt with a Latino population that had been affected by redistricting. Obviously, we don't have those sorts of things going on. So I think the general provisions about what you look at are applicable to us, but a lot of the specifics don't have much to do with us. We don't have parties. We have one ethnic group. All right, let's look at the constitutional provisions under Section 3, Article 6. The council shall establish representative districts which shall be within the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. So it's up to this austere body to determine how that's going to happen. 15 of these seats shall be apportioned to afford a reasonably equal division of citizenship among the districts. The remaining 2 are at large. That is really the only guidance that you have. 15 of these seats shall be apportioned to afford a reasonably equal division of citizenship among the districts. It doesn't say there have to be 15 districts. It says there have to be 15 seats that afford reasonably equal division of citizenship. Not voters, but citizenship. So you include all Cherokee citizens. I'm sorry.
Some of them are confused as to what section you're reading from.
Okay. Article 6, Section 3, the bottom of the page between those 2 heavy, bold, black marks.
Yep. Got notice in that. Thank you, Diane.
Certainly. Then on the next page, the council members representing districts within the boundaries must be domiciled within their district. That says to me, reading those 2 provisions together, that although it talks about seats in the that first paragraph, that shall be apportioned according to reasonably equal division of citizenship. When you read that in conjunction with the next paragraph, the council members representing districts within the boundaries must be domiciled within the districts. That says to me that the representatives have to be from the area which they live. That says to me 15 seats or 15 districts. Each council member in those has to be from that seat or district, whatever you want to call that unit. There has to be 15 of them reasonably divided by citizenship, and the council member has to be from that district. The legal cases, the provisions that we look at, Mr. Osborne did a little 2 or 3 paragraph synopsis of pertinent law. We all know from a long time ago, for some of us when we were in junior high or high school, one person, one vote is the overriding principle. That's been construed by the United States Supreme Court to mean representative districts should have populations that are equal in number as nearly as practicable. That doesn't mean that you have to have, down to 9,311 in each one, but is reasonably practicable. Voting Rights Act doesn't apply to us. And then Mr. Osborne talks about some guidance that the Supreme Court of the State of Oklahoma has used in analyzing theirs. Some of them I think can be helpful to you in your duties, preserving cores of existing districts or communities of interest. We all know that we have certain, communities that are integral by interest or by geographic location. To the extent that you can keep those intact, you probably should. Providing geographically compact districts, that is probably helpful. Obviously, not all of these districts are going to be the same geographic size. They can't be to afford that equal division of citizenship. Minimizing splitting political subdivisions doesn't have anything to do with us. Maintaining historical placement of district lines. You can use existing districts as guidance. Fairness to voters. Avoiding contests between incumbents running for re-election, and that's subordinate to the others. It would seem to me it would also make sense, and that maybe goes to number 2, providing geographically compact districts, then making the district lines using natural geographic boundaries or things that make sense to people that always have rivers or county division lines or highways or that sort of thing, so that people make a natural break. It seems to me that would be reasonable. That, I'm afraid, is about the only guidance that I can give you legally. We have, I know that some of the staff people have put together some population maps, and we'll be talking about those in a minute. Mr. King, Mr. Henry? Do you have anything to add to the legal analysis or any disagreement?
Well, no disagreement. And one thing that we may want to talk about is as we begin this discussion, is a policy consideration by the council. The Constitution calls for 15 seats equally proportioned. It doesn't say the word district, so you can have one district at 15 seats or 9 districts or 12 districts. It doesn't matter. I believe, and since we're here to get our arms around it, I believe the end result is the same. You're going to have 15 equal seats, no matter if you have one district or 15. So have that in consideration. You might as well call them districts, in my opinion, or if you want, I think that leads to less confusion to the voters. If you would have 15 equal seats in 10 districts or 9 districts, I think that would lead to confusion. If you're going to have 15 equal seats, as the Constitution requires, I believe you ought to go ahead and call them 15 equal or 50 districts.
I think that makes more sense too, particularly with that language, the council members representing districts within the boundaries must be domiciled within their district. It seems to make sense to me.
I agree with what Diane.
Ralph, can you hold just 1 second? Mr. Martin, question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a question. If we do these 15 different
districts, and later on we name all 15 different, give them different names and titles, whatever?
That would be up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Could be named, could be District 1, District 2.
I got 2 points, or 2 questions. One, I'm assuming in this distribution, you're only going to count the Cherokees within the historic boundaries of the Cherokee Nation
Yes, sir.
to divide this up.
Yes.
And we're not going to use zip codes that cross district lines as the enumerator.
Mr. Inlow just kicked me.
I understand, but we can't do it that way. I mean, we've got to use the line and find out how many Cherokees live within 14 counties, and divide those equally.
It says representative districts which shall be within the boundaries, shall be apportioned to afford a reasonably equal division of citizenship among the districts. Clearly, that means the people within 14 counties. Now, we all know how hard county is going to be, and I'm assuming that's why Mr. Inlow's kicking me, because they're going to get that. For those that cross over in and out of the jurisdiction, I think that you just have to do the best that you can with the best data that you can get.
And I don't disagree with that, but the tag office is pretty good about telling you live in or out. And, it also says that we'll give Leela the direction to collect data and keep data, and maybe she's going to have to put on some extra folks to figure out who's in, who's out. But that's something for us to decide. The second point is, and I don't have the Constitution or I can't cite the place right this second, where if you voted in the last election within a district, you can vote in that district again. We're not going to have the same districts. We're going to have 15 instead of 9. So is that going to cause each of those absentees to re-register and re-choose this first election? And if they don't, then they'll be at large from now on. Is how I understand it.
can address that. And I agree with your assessment. I think that's exactly what would happen. Under the new Constitution, the at-large Cherokee that are now registered within a district must take the affirmative step of re-registering in that district, or they will otherwise be registered at large. So you're absolutely correct.
That's in that next paragraph, on the second page, following the second bullet.
I just been studying it. I wasn't reading it.
Is your hand raised? Did you have it?
In that problem, and I've been thinking about that problem. For instance, when the next election comes around, I'm an absentee voter, 25 years or older. I get a one-time shot to either remain in the district or not. District 1 could be 3 separate districts. Okay. I think you would then give that voter the option of those 3 separate districts. I think that's the only way, because there's going to be a District 1, but it's going to be different than the District 1 that we've been used to. So it might be District 6, 5.
But they could also choose a different district. I mean, everybody can choose this first time. So, I mean, even though they voted in District 1, they could choose District 2, or the part of District 1 that is now in District 2, or, I mean, if you can choose, you can choose.
Well, if you change the districts, the constitutional language provides that all registered voters residing outside the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation may, at the time of the first election to fill at-large council seats, which will be next year, choose to continue to be registered to vote in the district in which they were previously registered. So they don't have the option of picking and choosing.
Okay, so if they're over 25, they don't have an option. If they're under 25...
That's not correct. Any registered at-large voter has this option at the first election, and then a different rule applies after the first election. After the first election, for those registering for the first time and under the age of 25 gets to select.
Right.
So it's apples and oranges.
Okay, but let's say it's the first election and they're over 25.
Okay?
And they didn't vote in the last election. So what's their option? At large only?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay. I'm finished now, thank you.
Speaking of what you're talking about, the justices reverted this back to 2003. So those people that registered to vote 25 and older automatically from 2003 forward voted large, lived at large.
I'm not sure if I understand.
Those people that live outside the boundary that registered after 2003
That are 25 years old.
that are 25 years or older automatically vote at large.
I think that's a reasonable interpretation.
Okay. I just want to kind of get that straight. But what I'm primarily wanting to know is where did we come up with these numbers for each district right now?
I mean, I think the staff people will be able to answer that in just a minute for you.
Who?
The staff people that are here from GIS and resources.
Okay. Could I know?
I'm sorry.
Could they answer now?
Are you referring to the booklet in the last page?
I'm referring to this right here that has the numbers, and I think it's the number of Cherokees that live in these districts.
Those are zip codes, and that's basically just membership by zip code.
Okay, it is the Cherokee Nation membership, or is it based on the 2000 census?
It's based on Cherokee Nation registration information. It's our actual members as of the 27th.
Thank you.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Ms. Cowan?
Thank you. There's a couple of issues that have come up, and one of them being the last. I disagree. I would think that given the same opportunity that we were with term limits not applying because of we cannot retroactively enact any law on someone. At the time those people registered to vote and the time they voted, that Constitution was not in effect. So it would not come into effect until this next election. And I think that would be true even for the language that it specifically says when we vote for an at-large seat. But we haven't voted for an at-large seat until this next election. So I think they have the opportunity still to have a one-time out, opt in or out of staying with the district. But on the question of zip codes and how we're going to actually show whether somebody's in the district or not, I don't know what the costs are associated with it, but it would be very time-intensive and labor-intensive, even with the software we've got, to geocode all those folks at the exact boundary. And you would have to, and that's what they do when an individual comes into the tag agency, is they have to go in and actually map out that individual address. And so to take thousands of people to do that would be very, very time-consuming. And I don't know how costly that would be. I'm not saying we don't need to do it, but with the mandate from the Justice Appeals Tribunal, I don't know that we have the opportunity to do it for this particular election. I think we need to look at the processes and how we gather data from our citizens and put more burden on them to provide us with proper 911 addressing and some other stuff before we make it a big project for our staff when we've got other things to balance out the priorities. So I think that's a consideration that we need to take as a body and not mandate that everybody knows exactly where they're at. So, because it's an estimate anyway. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Brian?
That's all I have for legal analysis. If there are no further questions.
Madam Chair?
Yes, David.
After what Kara said, I especially don't think that way, because I think the Constitution is the Constitution, and it's got laws in it, and I think we're going to have to follow them. And I don't think it makes any difference how expensive it's going to be. I think we're going to have to follow the laws. If you don't, you're going to end up in the JAPs making decisions on this Constitution. I think our public people actually, are smart enough to figure this out. So that's what I think about it. Thank you.
Right? Add something?
Just like to make a comment. I'm just listening to all the different discussions. Just make an observation. The convention did not change anything about the apportionment scheme from the old Constitution. In fact, we basically just adopted the prior amendment to the old Constitution that was passed, I think, in 87, whatever it was. So there was no substantive change. In other words, we still have the same constitutional requirement today as we did under the old Constitution. And in my reading of this, and in reading of the JAP decision in this, nowhere in there does it strictly mandate that you have to reapportion right now. I mean, if your apportionment scheme was constitutional under the old Constitution, it's going to be constitutional under the new one. Now, does that say that you can't? Absolutely not. This council has the power and authority to do that whenever it deems it reasonable and necessary. But there used to be some discussion that the new Constitution is mandating reapportionment and redistricting, and I just simply don't see that way. I think it's a policy decision for this body to make. And if you want to make that decision now, then that's your prerogative. However, all the other changes that are having to take place, it comes down to a question of whether it's good policy or not. So that's my comment on that.
So these legal minds out here in front of us, are you saying that at this time we could just divide Cherokee County in half, Adair County in half, Mays in half, Delaware in half, Sequoia in half, and accomplish the redistricting or the mandate of the court?
What I'm saying is that you don't necessarily have to redistrict at all.
Well, we got to have 15 seats.
No,
I mean,
15 seats. That's correct.
And we've got to have each one
15 districts.
Well, but I mean, could it be seat A and B of the counties that have 2 seats?
As long as those seats are reasonably apportioned. And that's what I'm trying
And what is
The
reasonable?
Constitution does not require 15 districts. In fact, that was a debate, as you mentioned, and I believe it was Dr. Gore that introduced that. Why don't we just insert the language 15 districts? And the debate discussion was that no, it's been working well. Just leave that to the prerogative of the legislature. Let the legislature decide how many districts, and that's exactly what we did. So yes, 15 seats were mandated, but the reason that was mandated was to set up the 2 at-large seats. That the 2 at-large seats would be treated separately and not be held to that same apportionment scheme, only the existing 15 seats.
Mr. Calhoun?
Thank you. I know there's all sorts of academic or legal concepts we can consider, but other than 15 distinct districts, how do you think we should reasonably provide for voters to understand that they have one representative or one vote, one person?
Maybe you should. Well, all I'm saying is it's not mandated strictly about the Constitution. It's a policy decision. Because I'm not sure how they ever came up with 9 districts to begin with. That's before my time. But it has, over the course of years, caused a certain amount of confusion to voters.
Do you have something
And that would
real you can offer us?
Sure. And that would relate back to my earlier comment, is that if you're going to have it in a 15 seats originally apportioned, it'd be, in my opinion, less confusing to the voter to have 15 districts. And do it that way.
Karen?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the legal implications? Okay, moving on down to options considering redistricting. Who's going to present that? Mr. Enlow or?
I believe we can start with the general overview of registration data, some discussion about bad addresses, as well as post office boxes, which both present challenges to getting the proper one. So that consumer history.
Is that microphone on? We can't tell for sure if we're getting all this recorded. Is it? Can you hear me? Can everyone hear okay? Okay.
The information that you received, Matt, these numbers were generated from our membership data. The numbers that you see on these booklets are 62706. At that time, our total number of membership was 263,952. In the 14 counties, there's 13,665. And we consider post office boxes. We have currently 26,571 members within these counties that have post office boxes. We have over 8,000 bad addresses, but that is the home membership. How many bad addresses? Over 8,000. Do you have any questions?
I heard you wrong, I'm sorry. How many Cherokees within the 14 counties?
Within the 14 counties, 139,665.
Any questions or comments?
I will also need a date of when you would decide to stop the membership numbers for district purposes. You have to remember that we add 800 to 12,000 new members each month. So you need to decide when.
Did you say 800 to 12,000?
1,200.
Oh, okay. Let me going.
1,200 a month. Yeah, we need to cut off that. Anyone have any questions? All we do is give the data. Plot it and give it in.
Next presenter. Oh, Jackie Bob, go right ahead.
Thank you. Maybe I don't understand, or the question is, what way accurately can we determine the citizens of Cherokee Nation living within the boundaries of Cherokee Nation? I know we have different databases, information. What can we do to get the actual number, or close to the actual number?
I can address some of that
Todd?
presentation and then kind of open that up to some questions.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
I just want to thank Leland for all the work, and actually all of you guys, because I know how difficult this has been because of our data problems. And I know the staff that probably aren't even here thanks them because it's been difficult. I know this is always a struggle, so thank you.
We have some staff directors sleeping in the car out in the parking lot. Basically, over the last couple of weeks, after the JDT made the ruling and the Constitution stood, we obviously knew that we had some redistricting issues that we needed to address. We needed total member counts, we needed to deal with the members at large, both on logistics in this room and how do we handle 2 additional council members and where they might be from. So what we went through is we sat down with registration and started working with them to verify our information, ensuring that the county information is tied to the zip code and the zip code is tied to the jurisdiction as best as possible. And so basically what we put together is a packet. And that packet has, it starts at the U.S. level and tells you how many members by state. It's just general information just to let you know what we're looking at. then we drove down into the actual state of Oklahoma and we look at the county information by county for the state of Oklahoma. And then we get down into zip codes. Historically, when we have done districting, and this goes back to the last districting process that we did, basically it looked at zip codes that intersected the jurisdictional boundary. And you'll see that represented in your maps, which will be about the fourth or fifth page in your book. Those jurisdictions, the zip codes in the jurisdiction, because they intersected somewhere 30% in and 70% out, and 70% in and 30% out, we didn't have any way to specifically tie those. And so actually our current jurisdictioning system was based on county and zip code. And so it's, the current process we have today was not an exact process. It was the best that we could do with the data that we had. And so that's basically what we went through. We tried to find the lowest common denominator of trying to get down to exactly where our citizens live. So we looked by state, by county, and we looked by zip code. There are other data sets that are out there. I mean, obviously there's congressional districts. The congressional districts are very large if you look at school districts. But we were trying to think in ways that would be easy for our tribal citizens to identify and say, I'm in District 13 because I'm in zip code 74459, whatever district name or code we come up with. And so in the back of your packet, there are two examples. And basically, those examples are based on our zip code information. And the GIS folks just went in and said, okay, our magic number is 6,700. And I'll get that exact number before the end of the meeting for you. Out of the members that live within the 14 counties, if we drew it up equally between 15 districts, there would be 6,700 tribal members. So they shot for that number. We have a tool and we'll demo here in just a little bit. And we basically tried to find contiguous zip codes that were reasonably proportional and equal to one another. And it's very difficult because, for example, 74464 has 9,874 roughly, I think. 9,769, sorry. And that actually puts it over just the threshold of the mark that we're trying to meet. So basically this information is presented to you to kind of give you an idea of what we can do. It's, if we want to look at 9 districts or 12 districts or 15 districts, whatever it may be, we can look at that data and try and come as close as we can. Now, it's been discussed already in the meeting as far as members living exactly in the 14 counties. And it's true we do that with the registration or the tag office. So when a citizen comes in and they register for a tag, they have to be a resident of the 14 county jurisdiction. We do that based on their address. But a lot of times what happens, they come in with a P.O. box. Well, the P.O. box is registered back to the actual post office. And so we may have 500 members that have an address with a P.O. box, and I can't tell you exactly where they live. And that's the issue, and that's why we reported we have a little over 26,000 people that have P.O. boxes. So I can't tell you exactly where those individuals live. The other thing that we have a challenge with the tag office is, and this occurs on a daily basis, the GIS folks get questions and say, I need to know citizen X comes in, are they in the 14 counties? And literally we have to walk through them on the phone because their address that they provide is not a legal 911 address. And so we literally take driving directions and say, I go down I-44, I make a right on 993 Road, and I go a half mile, and that's where my house is. And we actually have to make that jurisdictional call with those on a daily basis. So we were going to look at the tag office and try to cross-reference our membership information. Of course, that's going to be for those members that have registered cars. So we did our pinpoint information. We do have an application that we can try and pinpoint our members based on their 911 address, and it generates a Latin long. So I can tell you basically on an X coordinate, and a Y coordinate on the face of the earth where that individual lives.
Todd, can I interrupt just a moment? Mr. Baker.
Yeah, and Todd, I appreciate what you're saying, but there's a lot of counties that it's not going to be a problem. I mean, if you got a P.O. box in Adair County, you live in Adair County.
Right.
And you live within the jurisdiction of the Cherokee Nation. So you don't even have to look at Adair County.
Well, yes or no. If we look at 15 districts, then we'll have to know where those P.O. boxes are, because...
I understand, but if we maintain the borders of Adair County...
Yes.
And shift them part of Cherokee County to make them whole, then, you know, you don't have to look at Cherokee County, you don't have to look at Adair County.
Correct.
The Delaware County you don't have to look at. Craig you don't have to look at. Sequoia you don't, no, you don't have to look at Sequoia. I mean, so we're only talking about looking at 2 or 3 counties.
Actually, Tulsa County is obviously one that we'll have to look at. Wagner, Muskogee, McIntosh, Rogers, Mays, Delaware, and Ottawa.
Why Mays?
Because there's just a little tip with Mays that's actually down. I have to go back and double check that, but that's just off the top of my head.
Oh, I see. I see that corner there. Okay.
And we did look, we have been trying to look at and evaluate the actual pinpoint. Obviously, we have issues with non-911 addressable information. We have issues with P.O. boxes. The other issue that we run into is good 911 data for the counties. So if our application that we run all of our membership against cannot verify based on the 911 information that they have from the county, it throws it in the county seat. So, for example, we have good 911 information for Cherokee County, for Tulsa County, for Washington, for portions of Muskogee. Ottawa is pretty good, and Rogers is good. We have huge gaps of data of not being able to pinpoint Adair County, which is our second largest county. They lump them in the center of the county. And if we look at redistricting based on, if we just for example, if we have to look at redistricting inside Adair County, I can't tell you at this point, and I don't feel comfortable in telling you that I can tell you exactly where they are based on the information that we have today. And then that's why we selected and elected to look at the zip code information presented to you. It's not because we haven't been trying. I just don't feel comfortable in telling you this is where they are. That process that we use for the 263,000 members is the exact same process, the exact same data set that we use for the tag office.
Mr. Martin?
Thank you. Speaker. Why was Adair County difficult? What caused the difficulty?
It has to do with the 911 addressing information that's supplied and published to the companies that do address verification. And there are a few people in Adair County that it actually plots correctly. But for the majority of it, it's centers in the state because it doesn't know how to find the 911 street address and throw it on there. So a lot of these counties, it's a matter of updating with our the vendor that publishes the data for us.
Is that all, Mr. Martin? Phyllis Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Todd, I know that down in our area, because we border Arkansas, some people have post office boxes in Uniontown and Newport Smith because they work there and they actually live in the county, but their addresses are there. And then some, they have dual address, they have the route and they have the post office box.
And that's one of the challenges that we've been discussing as far as potentially in the future we should have 2 addresses inside the registration system. One for street address and one for PO. If they have a mail delivery. But a lot of that's going to be dependent upon our tribal citizens to complete accurate information. The other thing you always have to consider is that the information that you have in front of you today, the information that we've been analyzing, is based on those members that have taken the time to notify us if they've moved. It's not a requirement by law. There's nothing that, the mail delivery is going to stop, but they would have to come to registration and indicate a move. So that's the other challenge that we always deal with, and it's a huge assumption. I still live at 30213 South Indian Road, when in reality, I actually live in town at this point, if I don't update my address. That changes my zip code as well.
Mr. Crittenden?
No, thank you, Madam Speaker. Todd, there's one asset that we might be overlooking here in trying to run down, where these folks really live and all of that. Mentioned P.O. boxes.
Yes.
A lot of people who have P.O. boxes rated, you mentioned Cherokee and Adair County. A lot of those folks also have rural mailboxes out there for UPS delivery and that type of stuff. Post office, I had to answer from time to time how many deliveries that my mail carriers made in Cherokee County. And so I think that some of those folks that you can't locate, and I know Adair County doesn't have enhanced 911. That's a nightmare when you have to set that up, and I was glad I could retire before we had to do it. But there's some shortcomings to not having that for your emergency vehicles and all the other things, and what we're dealing with right now. But I think that some of these post offices in some of these areas might be able to answer some, even with the privacy requirements that they have to deal with. I think that they might could help you in some of these areas.
And we actually had some discussion about that yesterday.
Okay.
I spoke with Mr. Baker a little bit this morning with other data sets that are available for us to try and cross-reference.
Because believe me, those carriers know, they know when they cross the county line, especially on the highways, and they know, they've got a good feeling for, where people live. And also, when they rent a post office box, they're required to list a residential address or someplace they can find them. So, something to think about.
Mr. Al Mox?
Thank you. I know from my perspective, I'm kind of looking at the 80-20 rule at this point, because it's going to take years for us to get folks to have a habit of accurately updating us, and for some of the counties to go to 911 addressing. So we're never going to get 100% of what we're wanting. So with 20% of the effort, I think we can get 80% of the job done, and request a census or something else, and mandate like a new redistricting be done before the next 4 years or something, in aim for better accuracy. But I just don't know that we're going to get it with all the obstacles that we face. And our GIS department and our registration department already has a heavy workload, and for us to try to get 99.9% of all the tribal citizens accurately identified, we're talking about very labor intensive and sending people out. And I don't think that's what this was meant to do. I don't think that was the intent. Thank you.
Henry, do you have a comment?
One of the considerations in redistricting is to minimize the division of political subdivisions. And I know we've been concentrating way heavily on zip codes. I would like to see the council consider more concentrating on county lines. I know where I live, and I know Adair County. I don't know where my zip code is. And I think that's a practical consideration for voter confusion and politics in general. I mean, how are you going to know where you're going to want to campaign in the district if you don't really know what the boundaries are? You know where the boundaries are on your county races. Is there a way that we can take it county by county and try to minimize it as least as possible to eliminate voter confusion, first of all, and secondly, minimize division of political subdivisions and make it easier on campaigning? Is there a way to do it county by county?
Yes. and that's basically our current districting system was based on county compared in, especially in Tulsa County, because we have so much of the population that lives south of the jurisdictional boundary that was married with zip code data. And I agree with you in the fact that could be quite confusing, and zip code was the only thing that we could think of was the least confusing, because if you say, well, you're in this zip code and this school district or this congressional district, and they match up, and maybe they cross-section one another, it can get very confusing on where your precinct and what your district is.
Just for example, and I'm seeing this for the first time, but you can take a perusal on, let's say, Cherokee Citizens by zip code example 1. Look in the bottom right-hand corner of District 3. District 3 would go all the way from the southern tip of Sequoia County all the way up to, I'm going to assume, the city limits of Tahlequah. If we can find a way to minimize it for voter confusion, to keep it more county by county, I think that'd be more practical, and I just make that point for comment.
Mr. Thornton, do you have a comment? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I don't disagree with the question, more to observe. But like in Muskogee County, we have a representative there. And in the city of Muskogee, you have several people that live on the other side of the line that's been voting in Muskogee. If you have, to be fair, for someone that's running at large in Muskogee, then the only thing you can do is make sure that those people that are outside the boundaries vote at large or have the option to vote at large are registered inside. Now, to be fair to those people that are running at large, it's not only fair to us in our districts, but we've got to think about these people that's running at large also. They're not represented here today, but I'm sure that they'd be speaking up saying, no, I want those votes. If they won't vote at large, I want them to vote at large, where I'm going to be. So that'd be one thing to think about.
We'll be happy to work with the council on however you elect to redistrict. This is just the information we want to present to you today, where we know where people are, give you some options, discuss the pros, the cons, the things that are going to be issues for us, and we just try to give you some examples if you elected to look at 15 districts, but there are a lot of hard decisions that need to be made based on the zip code. That was our past practice, and if we need to change that, we can do that and look at it and try and get to the best, lowest level common denominator that everybody feels comfortable with and feels like it's an equal representation.
Mr. Martin?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think what we need to realize is that we don't live in a perfect world, and we're certainly not going to make a perfect world here in this situation. It's a very complicated issue, complicated matters, but I do agree with Mr. Hembry about the county by county situation, especially in Adair County. I think Mr. Princeton and I know, and you, Mr. Hembry, being from Adair County and some of the others, about our Cherokee population in Adair County. And I've thought about this a lot. If we divide the county up in two pieces, it wouldn't work to divide it north and south, as we usually refer to it as Barron Creek being the dividing line. But as far as the Cherokee population, that wouldn't work. But if we had a map that had the roadways and highways and whatever, the majority of the Cherokee population in Adair County is probably from Barron Creek south, and the further south you get, the more the Cherokee population. So, to me, in my thinking, the best way to settle the Adair County situation, and I've talked to Mr. Princeton about this, but would be to divide it east and west like using Highway 59. That would be a good start, and from the citizens' point of view or whatever, it's always been a confusing matter for our people out there, because I've been there all my life, especially in the matter of voting. In history, we've made it very difficult for people to know the actual voting process, the blue card, the yellow card, the red card, and all of this. So now, when we do this, if we do this, then it's going to be confusing for our people. But anyway, these are just some ideas, comments, and thank you.
Mr. Denver? Oh, excuse me.
I would yield to Mr. Crittenden.
I would just want to add on to what Mr. Martin was saying, and he's right about our population. And there's also a consideration that if we divide it like example 1 or example 2 in here, if we decide to run next time, one of us is going to have to either move or we're going to be running for the same deal. So if we use Highway 59, he's on the west side of it, and I'm on the east side. So something to think about.
You have to have a gentleman's agreement on which one's going to go which way.
Mr. Henry?
And that's that's exactly the example that I wanted to point out in the beginning with. If we can go by county option, people know where their county is, and we don't have to make the situation harder than what it can be. Example, Adair County, is a perfect example. Everybody know we got a highway that divides it right in half. We know by the knowledge in this room where the Cherokee population is in that county. We don't have to actually we can use more than just that. We can use our common sense. Adair County is easy. Right there, problem solved in one district right there. East-West, seat 1, seat 2. Sequoia County, we know, me growing up in Greasy right here, I know when I cut, there is a significant amount of Cherokee population. I also know that there is a significant population in Weber's Falls. These individuals know, there's more intrinsic knowledge out there that we can use to make these divisions. Maybe a north-south division of Sequoia County can get to that 80-20, 20% effort to 80% product that Ms. Watson was referring to. Sequoia County, what I'm thinking is that if we each go to our counties individually, using the knowledge that we have and the knowledge that Mr. Enlow brings forward, it might not be that hard to do, folks. Like I said, here's 2 counties, and I think we can get those 2 solved real quick. I just want to point that out.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Cowan?
When I did the math and I tried to look at the numbers, the 14 county total would have like 9,311 citizens would be our aim, our goal, right? Not that we'd meet that for our district, but that's about it, 9,300. That doesn't match up to how the districting went. It seems like it's much smaller.
It is for a variety of reasons.
And that's what I wanted to understand, because the 14 county map totals were somewhat appear to be much different.
If you look at the county, that is the entire county. That's not just the portion that lives in the jurisdiction. The county.
But even when I kind of accounted for that, it didn't match up.
Well, here's
okay.
The other thing that is difficult with this map is on the zip codes. When you have a PO box like 74465, it doesn't show up in the GIS system because there's no jurisdictional boundary to the PO box.
So really, we can only go by county then. In some
we
way.
can do a little bit more work with the zip codes and like 74465 and associated with 74464. But we need to go back and do a little bit more research on PO box zip codes that tie to another zip code. And again, there's some assumption that one, if they have a P.O. box, they're going to live in the county, and they're going to reside within 74464. So that's why there's a discrepancy in the numbers, because that was actually getting down to a line item number based on the zip code information that's in the details.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Any other questions, comments?
Chair, I just had a question for Todd. That was what you compiled based on the zip code. You mentioned earlier that some of it would be 80% within the boundaries and 20 out, and other areas would be the opposite. Have you looked at those numbers to see how closely they would come to the statutory requirement of plus or minus 5% for apportionment purposes?
Not yet. That's what we were looking at with the pinpoint information, and actually trying to evaluate that process. So at least just for the jurisdictional boundary. But like Wagner County, for example, Wagner County has great 911 information because you get to Toledo and Tulsa. You get east of that, and you lose it.
So you really don't know with any certainty at this point just how much this may impact the plus or minus 5% more than the requirement.
We can make some assumptions at this point, but I don't know if they're valid. I mean, we can work on the assumptions and try to get more detailed information.
Thank you.
Anything else? Todd, do you have anything else?
Well, we've got this redistricting tool that we have up here, but I don't know if it's the pleasure of council if you would like to look at it, but basically it allows us to look at a boundary and move and put stuff in it. We just kind of want to show you an example of what it was we were looking at. I don't know if it's necessary today. And the only other thing I would kind of pose a question to the council as far as how the council is going to work with the staff if we do different scenarios, because we want to make sure we do this timely. If we're doing 920 different scenarios, I don't know that we'll be able to get all 920 different scenarios. So I didn't know what the protocol would be for analysis or training data, because we want to make sure we get back in the time.
Okay, we'll get back again with the no.
Okay.
Is that all you had?
That's about it.
Bill Donovan has an illustration here, also another option to consider, which I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Now, the data that we used is data that we requested a year ago. And these were the numbers of blue card holders in each district at that time. Now, I believe at the time that was what it was. Todd has since told me that some of Three Rivers takes in more of Muskogee than the 14 counties, that it takes in more of Tulsa than the 14 counties, it takes in more of Osage County than the 14 counties. It is, it's cross lines, so it's not pure. And if you want to kind of see that, if you look at the big one that Todd passed out, all these bordering counties, if any of that zip code gets inside, then they count it. In other words, if you go up to Tulsa County, that 1,543 on the left side of the line, a third of the county is in, but they counted the whole number. So it skews it some, but anyway, trying to keep this as simple as possible. Really, the only county that is disrupted is Mays County, Madam Chairman.
That figures.
Well, but in trying to follow, the guidelines that Law and Justice sent over, the Constitution, let's start at Sequoia County, for example. They have a population of 11,377, which would constitute 1.8 council people. The Three Rivers constitutes 1.4. So the logical way to take care of that bottom would be for Sequoyah County to pick up around 1,300 folks from, and I don't have the maps up there, from like Weber's Falls and maybe one Gore or one other zip code that would shift that over. Then the other thing that Three Rivers would have to do would probably give up Wagner County to Mays County. And that would make 1.99 for Sequoyah County and 1.0 for Muskogee County. And then Cherokee County is 2.27, but Adair County is 1.72. If you add them up, that's 4. So it would be real easy, and it would be politically correct to give Dry Creek or Chewy to Adair County, because a lot of those folks go to church in Adair County. We're constantly trying to figure out if the cemetery is in Cherokee or Adair, and the people don't know. And so I think we could carve out 11% of Cherokee County's population to add to Adair County to make them exactly 2 and us exactly 2. Now Delaware County needs 1,841 extra people for 2 seats. So I'm thinking that we can find a highway, a community in Mays County to shift over, then make that whole, and then add Wagner to Mays. And it is not unusual for people in Pryor to go to Wagner, or people in Wagner to go to Pryor. I mean, 69 is the corridor. They feel comfortable shopping in the other place, so I would think they feel comfortable voting. So there would be a Mays County that would just go right up the gut of Mays County. Then in Rogers County, there would be 1 seat in Rogers County on the west, and then there would be a seat that would be a little more Rogers County and a little less Mays County that would create another seat. And then Craig County is perfect at 1, and Keeler is 1.98, which I think is good enough for this type of a distribution. And so at that point, all we would have to do is decide how far up in Tulsa County you make the cutoff to divide that district. That's without going back and reinventing the wheel. That's without challenging the folks out of district at this time that I think was in what is in the existing districting that we've got. And it maintains the county lines as close as I could come up with. And it's not logical for Cherokee County to give it to anybody but Adair. It's not logical for Sequoyah to get it from anywhere except Three Rivers. It's not logical for Delaware to take it from any place except Mays. And in Rogers, you could either call it that Rogers is getting part of Mays, or Mays is getting part of Rogers, or you just got a district that's half and half is what it pretty much boils down to. And but without reinventing the wheel, and then at that point, Jackie, Bob, and Joe, and I'm not talking gerrymandering at all. I'm saying they find a reasonable split to bring to this council that says Highway 62 is reasonable. And Audra and I come up with Highway 82 is reasonable as long as the zip codes and the population maps make them equal, or as close to equal as is reasonable at this time. And then Buell and Bill will have to sit there and decide, is a Wasso breaking line, is, where in that district is an equal population. And like I say, Chuck has to do absolutely nothing. He doesn't give up, he doesn't take, he doesn't, but from looking at the data that was available, this made the most sense, and fortunately or unfortunately or unfortunately, this particular time, Johnny's not rerunning, and so we're not cutting anybody out of a district, doing it this way, and we're maintaining the county lines, I think, as best that we possibly can, and I think that we can find a divide where Audrey would be in one district and I would be in the other. I think Jackie, Bob, and Joe can find a district that they could, both split the county and not do it. But there's still going to be pride in that. Maybe I don't get to vote for all of Cherokee County, but I'm still Cherokee County, or I'm still Delaware, and like I say, they're going to have to take part of Mays, and we're going to lose part of Cherokee County to Adair. But I think, at that point, it's going to take individual council people to use their knowledge of, do the people in Locust Grove feel more comfortable going to Delaware County, or do the people at Salina feel more comfortable? And my guess is Salina would, but I don't know that. But that's where you all have to use your knowledge and all to decide. Okay, we've got to give up 2,000 people. Where we're going to give them up at, and still maintain continuity for our constituents. And that's it in a nutshell. And that doesn't reinvent the wheel. I do believe that if we choose this type of division, we need to do it as quickly as possible, because the other problem that I told you, that now there's 15 districts instead of 9, and people need to know what these districts are so that they can register and choose a district, and whether it's choose East or West Cherokee County, if they vote in the last election absentee in Cherokee County, or whether the new ones want to register, they need to be able to pick a place to do so. And we can't get 4 or 5 months out from the election and say, okay, now you got to choose. I mean, where's the fairness in that deal? But I also think that we ought to mandate collection of data from the registrar, as the Constitution says, that now they've got to go and geodata and get proper addresses so that the next redistricting in 2 years or so can only be folks within the 14 counties. The Constitution's clear that, if you haven't chose a district, that you will vote at large. Nobody's been disenfranchised, and it's just not right to be picking up population by virtue of people that register across the line. Thank you.
Mr. Martin, and then Ms. Cowan Watts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Becker, I appreciate the information that you've gathered. I don't take the method to do that, but my opinion, since we don't have an accurate number, I know we've got good numbers, but I don't feel like we have accurate numbers of people that live in our district, and to keep from making things more confusing for our citizens, I still believe that we ought to leave our districts as are. And some we can divide some of these the way we agree to it, but percentage-wise, and the reason I'm saying it, percentage-wise, when you look the Eagle District, 1.98, even though some are 1.55, 1.57, because we don't have complete, accurate numbers as such, I'm still for leaving the districts as they are. You know, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Ms. Camelot, I just want to, Bill John, did you want to respond?
Well, I mean, the only response I'd have is Jackie Bob, that was one of the main things I tried to do was keep the districts just like they are. And the only difference in your district was you'll pick up either Chewy, Proctor, you pick up Proctor or Dry Creek to get your population up. We need to give 11% of Cherokee County away, but hey, we'll keep them if that's what this council says. I mean, I'm not looking to give any Cherokee Countyans away. I'm just trying to find a way to meet the constitutional guidelines in a quick and simple manner that is not going to drag this thing out for 6 months. And like I say, the only one that I was not successful on was Mays County. I was not successful there.
Ms. Camelot?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'm confused why we're arguing about the at-large versus staying in, because the Constitution gives an individual the right to decide that independently of us. I mean, sure, we can lobby and campaign them, but it's their decision to stay at-large or go into a district. So I'm confused why that keeps coming up. But on the districting, I do like the idea of keeping with the counties. I have some different ideas about how I would group the counties and such, but this data being presented here, I don't think is correct. I think because the P.O. boxes seem to be missing from these numbers, so they're significantly lower than the actual people in the counties. And so I like the idea of going that direction, but we're basing it on the wrong numbers. So we need to go back to the table and this needs to be reconsidered. I would like to make a motion to set a date today for the data to be retrieved so that our staff has an idea of where they're shooting for and what they're going to be using so that we can keep moving forward. So, I don't know, we can arbitrarily pick something. It can be the 627 data that's already been pooled for analysis, or it could be, a month or two from now. I'm okay at whatever, because we're always going to, population changes, that's inherent to population, so it doesn't matter, we just need to do it and set it so that we can act on it. But I'd like to make a motion to take the June 27, 2006 data to be used for redistricting as we move forward.
In considering this date, be mindful that that you have a residency requirement in your districts. Okay, you have to be a resident for 270 days prior to the filing for election. So, some math major, tell me how many 270, how many months?
September.
Yeah, September. Okay. So this is going to have to happen fast. Is just what I want to impress on you. So that we would set the district, everybody know what district that they reside in, so they know where they're going to run, and that's for not only you all but all of the population, because we're going to have a lot of candidates, and they need to know with some type of certainty.
Todd, I'm sorry, hold on, let's talk. I need a second so we can open this up for discussion. Okay, we got a second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And that completed my thought. Just that everyone knows some kind of certainty, so I need to go fast.
I just want to echo what Henry said there. Obviously, we had in mind that we had to work backwards from the election date as well. And, we're working on the assumption that we have to have everything done, and the election commission would have to certify and get all the precedents set in districts or redistricts or whatever we're going to do. We had to have everything done and decided by September. So
Tom, this is a question for you. You looked at this that was just passed out to you, those numbers. I don't mean to put you on the spot. But relatively speaking, you've been working with this anyway. How far off do you think that these numbers are?
As far as, I'm sorry,
The numbers that's quoted here on this,
on this
on the handout. Have you had a chance to?
I mean, just roughly off the top of my head, the 95,000 that we were, that's presented in the spreadsheet, obviously the population has increased considerably, and the numbers that we were looking at just based on zip code information, it's almost 40,000 different. Now, one of the things I would propose, and Melanie and I were just discussing this offline, is based on the zip code information, and if it's a pleasure of the council, we could look at this and evaluate it. We can look at in the GIS system and evaluate the square footage or square mile of each zip code that currently exists today. And so, for example, in Wagner County, we have 2,043 that are reporting in that zip code. We could determine based on the total number of square feet and say that's 30% of the zip code that resides in the 14 counties. We could actuarially take that and say 30% of our tribal citizens in that zip code. And it's not going to be exact, but it's going to be a lot closer than what we got today based on just the whole zip code.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
And that will actually decrease our number considerably from the 135,000. It'll reduce it down to a number a little. It's going to be, off the top of my head, you're probably going to be about 120,000 or a little more.
Starting.
As far as what the Constitution says that you're going to stay within the boundaries of Cherokee Nation for these 15 seats, and apparently you're going to have to do quite a bit of work here to figure out where is what and what's what. And I like using the census that you have today. Would August the 1st give you long enough to go back and analyze and find out where you're at and give us a number or something?
Basically,
first week in August.
Yeah. What we can do is we've already established, and I won't get too technical, but we've already established the queries or the questions that say return back to these citizens with this information. And so we can regenerate this over and over and over and over again in just a matter of a few minutes so that we can go back and analyze it. The other thing that takes a little bit of time is to tie that to the GIS system, but it doesn't take a huge amount of time, and we can have some stuff predefined, so it's almost a cookie cutter process. So we could, within reason, if you wanted to look at, extend it to August 1st within a matter of a couple of days, we could have everything back in your hand. As long as we could decide on, districts and what they're going to look like, we could try and plug those numbers in to whatever we come up with the zoning.
Well, that's great, if you can get enough amount of time, but I think we should look at this, realistic, because with two people in that district, in our district, that's going to pit me and Phyllis living in the same side of the district. It's going to pit Joe and I think Mr. Martin may be living in the top half or lower half or one side or the other. And I know our district isn't set in any way that we can cut it up. So Phyllis and I wouldn't live in the same side of whatever district that we come up with. And I don't know what her thoughts are on that, but I don't think it's right.
Let's just have one more thing that
we're against one another.
Do you have a comment to that?
Well, one thing I just wanted to mention, I want to make sure that you guys walk away with this. If we divide districts based on highways or some geographic feature that exists today, my concern is in the next election, all our citizens are going to have to re-register for the new district. And we're not going to know if they live on the east side of the road or the west side of the road. And obviously there's some things that we'll have to work with the election commission and in dealing with that and trying to identify the pinpointed location, as well as between the election commission and registration. So I just wanted to make that point that if we select some geographic feature that is not represented today, we'll have to pinpoint and know which side of that highway or river or whatever it is, geographic feature.
Yeah. Todd, on this set of numbers,
yes,
are you positive that the post office boxes were not represented at that time?
I will double check, but I'm 99% sure.
I mean, the query was, how many blue card members live in each county? And we broke it down by over 18 and under 18, and it was supposed to be all blue cards in the county.
I'll have an answer for you by the end of the day.
Okay, because at the time, I was told I had all of them. And to now decide that I didn't have the post office boxes is a little...
Well, now, on this information, you should have had the P.O. box.
Yeah, that's what I believe, yes. And I agree that, populations grow and people register, and so I'm not saying that this is the number today.
Right.
But my guess is percentage-wise, it's going to be pretty close. And
yes, I would concur. It's going to be pretty close.
And but I don't know that I want to vote at this minute to use a dated set of data that we haven't seen, and in other words, I'd like to keep our options open, because if we get too much of a hassle or fussing on this, we might want the option of dropping back to the old districts and just A and B or split it, and if it gets too time consuming and too complicated, and because I'm still looking that we've got an election in a year, and so I guess I'm asking us not to pass a day of determination at this time.
So Larry, Speaker, just a comment. When this was taken to the community, our particular community didn't like separate seats of A and B. We like to consider ourselves as one district, and we all pull together. And I don't think people really going to be receptive to this one once they know out there about the different seats. But that being said, it's going to be confusing enough. And if we go by the populace and not the county lines, then we're really throwing our elections into a quandary, tizzy, as well as our people. And I think this council's going to hear from our people about what we're trying to attempt to do here. So I really think that we need to take our time and get as much of an accurate figure as we can on this before we make any kind of decisions or set any kind of deadlines, is my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Thornton respond to one of the comments, David, if Joe and I agree to divide Adair County east and west, he does live on the east side by 100 yards. And I'll live on the west side by 100 yards. That's one comment, but then get back to Mr. Enlow's comments about the voters maybe not being informed or aware of where to vote and whatever in the next election. I feel like this is a candidate's responsibility, to make sure that we can, if we do this, that we, the candidates, inform the voters out there, and when we have the meetings and out business, whatever, to make sure that they know, where they vote, and then to re-register if that's necessary. Thank you.
Ms. Watts. Thank you. Ms. Cherokee.
If Don was here, he'd agree with me that we kind of suspected we were almost doing the job of two council people, as the numbers kind of say. So my struggle with this is that we've really got to stick with the counties, as everybody said. But I think we need to relook at the data, and I think we need to be upfront when we district in putting what the assumptions were with the data, and some of the concerns that's upfront to the people. Because gerrymandering for consideration of ourselves as individual elected officials is a secondary consideration, and that's according to that case law that was provided to us. So I just want to make sure that that's in the back of our mind. But to clarify the motion on the table, it was made by myself and seconded by Mr. England, is that it's just to set the date on the data that we will use, and that is it. Not to set a date for when we're going to make a decision, just set the date on the data that we're going to use so that the staff knows what data they're working with to determine population for the district. Thank you.
Ms. Cherokee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it is confusing, I have to say. I think that the most confusing to me, I apologize to Mr. Baker, but I know the effort was put into it and thought. But I believe also that the county lines establish good, solid identifiers. Second, I was trying to reduce and hit that 0.8 mark of being an eighth of a person, something, or 8/10 of a person, so I could hit that qualification, but that might not happen with us in the next year. And a couple of things. I already, and I just want to share with you, I already received calls from the Three Rivers District, so I'm actually helping Mr. Garvin represent his district too. Also received calls from the Trail of Tears District too. So, I don't think that really when we talk about hearing from constituents that we don't just actually take calls from people that are in our district who work for whomever. I think that one of the things that I would like to consider is that not so much for myself. To me, it matters not if Mr. Thornton and I live on the same side of the county. That's not going to. I think that should be the last thought of our current council and where they reside and how we do this. I think that we just need to keep in mind what is the most fair and the least confusing for our citizens. Because right now we have some people that are in Marble City. They have a voting precinct there, and for some reason they travel to Vine in to cast the votes. And so, there's already some confusion out there. And if we start changing some of that about where they go to vote, then they're probably just not going to vote. And that's we don't want that. I think we should strive to do whatever it is that keeps our people out and involved in trying to make a decision about the government. So I think that, I think that since the county lines are already established in clear definition, I think that should be one of the factors that we consider in the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I totally agree with what Councilor Yardley just said, because the way Councilor Baker said it earlier about coming down into the Owasso area and starting to divide all that town up into two districts. I don't know whether any of you have been up into the Owasso area and the Washington County area, but that's more about 1,000 slabs every 2 days in these two counties. And these areas are booming. They're getting populated. And if you take these numbers of Washington County right now, they're going to be totally different in a month with all those people moving into Washington County. And you go gerrymandering in Owasso and slicing it in half, pushing part of it into Washington County. Washington County is going to become the largest populated area within the next 2 years. What we're doing today, or what we're talking about today, is not even going to go water in 2 years. And it probably won't even be close within a year from the election where we'll be. So, I totally agree with Councilor Yardley about not setting these districts up into roads and rivers and corner posts and everything else, that we're going to confuse all of our voters, and especially in the old Watson and the Collinsville area. These people are not even going to have any idea where they need to drive all the way to Bartlesville to vote, or drive to Maxwell Park and Tulsa to vote. So, I think we just need to take a hard look at this and not hurry it, rush it, and everything. Our people are totally confused right now when we're talking about in our community meetings every month about this redistricting. They don't even know what to do. Now we're talking about asking people to re-register, and a lot of them are just starting to register and get interested in Cherokee. Now we're throwing another curve at them. I don't know, I'm just having a problem, having some heartburn with this, the way people are wanting to meander around in our district and cut it up. And I don't think anybody knows it any better than what Bill and I know it over there, of how our area is growing. I mean, it's just unreal. So, that's the way I feel about leaving it with our county lines and stuff like that.
Call for question on day-to-day. Bill Tom had a response, and then Ms. O'Leary had responded.
Yeah, and Bill, there's some confusion on what I said. I said that you and Bill would look where the break was, not me. I don't know your county well enough to know where the break is, where half the population is north and half of it south. It might be the county line. I don't know. But my only comment was that you all would have to decide where the division line would be. Trying to keep in mind the Constitution says that you'll represent 6,500, 7,500, 10,000 people, whatever number Todd ends up with, that you represent the same that Bill does. And, but that might give you all of Collinsville and him drop down or whatever to a different precinct. But just, the law says we'll keep them equal. Yeah.
Mr. Leary, and then Mr. King, and then we'll stop all questions because it's about lunchtime. We have a full slate this afternoon. Mr. Leary?
Our people out there have a hard enough time with the past elections when they go to the polls. You can't vote here, or you went to the wrong place, and there's apathy out there among our people. And I've had one gentleman tell me, hey, they turned me away from the polls, and I'm supposed to go here and vote, and then they turned me away from there. No, you're supposed to go back here, and I've got to run around, so I didn't vote. I tacked my blue card on the wall and said, to heck with it. That's what we deal with when our people are confused out there, that they don't know what to do, they don't get any resolution to where they should vote and what they should do. And the re-registering part of it is going to be a nightmare, a holy terror part of this. I do think it needs to go along county lines. The other part of this is we cannot afford to not allow our people the best information and where they can vote and what they can do at a minimum of their expense, time, and input into this. Because we do want them to be involved in Cherokee Nation. We want them to be involved in voicing, having a voice in their government and their elections. And therefore, we need to look at this as making it as easy for our people, that being the top priority of what this council needs to do, as well as abiding by the Constitution as it's set out. So with that, Madam Chairman, I thank you.
Mr. King?
Just bring it back to one comment. Obviously, this is not an easy question. Many issues have to deal with confusion. But I just wanted to remind you of what the constitutional mandate is. The mandate is not redistricting or even how many districts you're going to have. The mandate is a portion of that. For every so many Cherokee numbers thereafter, there's going to be one representative, or one representative up to 15 seats.
Rob, this is important what you're saying. Did you mind coming to the mic? Sure. That's good from here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is that better? Okay. What I was saying is what the Constitution requires is apportionment, equal representation among the 14 county historical boundaries. It does not, the Constitution mandate districts, 9 districts, 15 districts. It just says that there shall be districts and they should be reasonably apportioned. The problem is how do you make those numbers balance out with the least amount of confusion? And obviously the best way to do that is try to follow your geographic boundaries and borders as close as possible. As close as possible, but the math will not allow you to do that perfectly. And that's why you have to come up with these compromises as Mr. Papers. So, but the only point I wanted to make is, absolutely it makes perfect sense to try to follow the county lines as close as possible, but it's not going to be possible to go back. Remember, just will not allow. So you're going to have to make some adjustments. And I think that's a lot of what you're struggling with. But I just wanted to remind you that it's not necessarily the number of districts that are important under the Constitution. What's important is that it be fairly apportioned as far as the number of the Cherokee population. That's my point. And I don't mean to do any work. This is a difficult task.
Thank you. Okay, Kara, would you want to restate your motion?
The motion is to use the data from June 27th, 2006, going forward, and if there's changes, we don't worry about it. We're just going to use the June 27th, 2006 registration data for apportionment. And Ms. Councilman England, seconded.
Second it. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
Roll call, madam.
Phyllis Yarchi. David Thornton.
I'd like to say something before I go here. I know that most of us think that these people will be confused, but in Sequoia County, I think if you draw a line right down the middle, our people are intelligent enough to know which side they're going to vote on of that line and which district they're going to be in. But I'm going to vote no.
Melvina Shumphound. Linda O'Leary.
No.
Jackie Bob Martin.
Yes.
John Keener. John Keener.
No.
William Johnson.
Yes.
Charles Hoskin.
No.
Don Garvin. Kara Callan-Locke.
Yes.
Audrey Connor.
Yes.
John Baker.
No.
Bill Anglin.
Yes.
Joe Crichton.
No.
Meredith Fraley.
Yes. The vote is 7 no, 6 yes. Motion passes.
Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Madam? Sure. I'm a little frustrated because for all of the discussion about moving forward on this, there was little to no debate for all the folks who just voted no about the actual date and why or why not we should choose June 27th. I was free to be offered another date. If we're going to move forward, we needed to have set a date around this meeting.
Point of order.
That.
Point of order. I don't think we need to be chastised as council. Bill John?
Yeah, and I thought I was pretty clear when I said that I just don't want to narrow it down to one day. I wanted to leave it open so that we could make a decision on another day instead of locking in to only massage this information. And because, you say that day, well, is it county lines? Is it post office boxes? Is it zip codes? Is it just what they bring forward as of that date. And I'm not being unkind here, but I've been asking for that information for 2 weeks. And they says, oh no, we can't have it, we want to make sure it's right the day of the meeting. And then they come in here and say it's not right. Well, I don't want to make a decision on anything that I haven't seen. And I don't want to arbitrarily say that we're going to pick this date and that's what we're going to use. Doesn't mean we can't use that date. It just means that I don't want to lock it down and say that this set of figures brought to us is the only thing we can decide on. And that, I thought I was clear when I asked people not to vote for it. But
I just wanted to mention that the usefulness of selecting a cutoff date is so that any additional registrations don't change the data every time we look at it. It's not to say that it's to nail down the depiction of the data in terms of whether we use zip codes or whether we use or how we address the zip codes, but it's that the total number of registered citizens doesn't change each time that we generate a new depiction of the data. So that's the reason it's important, at least from the staff, to know what cutoff date you all want, whether it's, we have an audited date of May 31st, we've used the data for the following month up to June 27th, or whether you want a depiction as of the day before, of the completed registration of the nation. So that's the reason it's important for us to know, so we know what to use. Thank you. Now, yes.
Just to point out the fact, so you're comparing apples to apples. Because if we go back next week, there may be 1,000 different, or 500 people that are added to our citizenry, and 300 may be in Cherokee County. And so, when you're trying to make decisions, your data is continuously changing unless we're trying to pick a date and stay with it. That's whatever date you want to choose, we can do that, but just be aware, if we continue to look, you're not going to be able to compare and say, well, why did my zip code just increase by 40 constituents or decrease by 40 constituents? It's going to change continuously if we don't look at dates.
And Madam Chairman, for the purposes of geodata and IT to massage the data, this date is fine. I just don't want that to be the only thing we can make a decision on. In other words, we can go back to the last redistricting and just say, we're going to divide Adair County, we're going to divide Sequoia County, and do our districts that way. I just don't want that to be the only decision that we can make is on that data. I want to be able to drop back and go from the last redistricting and just divide it up into 15, to go from the information that they gave me as good data a year ago. And so I would make that in the form of a motion that for their purposes, they don't add any new registration to their site.
Order, it would be proper as a no vote for him to reconsider my motion because it's the same thing.
Madam Chairman, I don't believe that's a true statement. I heard...
Mr. Hembry, I saw you shaking your head. Would you like to explain it to me?
Well, anybody can, okay, we gotta have a date. We gotta have a date if we have to have, and I'll try not to get too excited.
Please don't. Please don't.
In order to implement this or any other plan, the Constitution requires, as Mr. Keene said, that these 15 seats be equally apportioned as practical. That means today's data. Okay. That means the data that can be brought to you all in its most appropriate form. Okay. And that necessarily means how many citizens there are of the Cherokee Nation and pretty much where do they live. That's how we're going to have to apportion these seats. In order to do that, in order to help me do that, and progress it, we need to have a date. Mr. Emil is absolutely right. Whether it be August 1st, July 15th, or whatever, because that date is changing constantly. So what I would recommend is, and since we are on such a tight deadline, thank you, August 1st seems to be an appropriate date, just, or you can call it September 15th or August 2nd. It doesn't matter. Just give us a date so we can have this information and to implement this. Because, you know, I guess I can't say personal privilege. This looks like a really good idea. It's maintaining the county health borders. You're going to have to, as Mr. King said, you're going to have to massage it a little bit because but the least amount of massaging is the best. But we've got to have a date that we can take a number from and go with it from there.
Madam Chairman, I have a motion, not a reconsideration, for geodatus purposes to use today's date as the cutoff for their massaging and bringing
I'll
information.
second that motion, Madam Chair. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. So you're clear today's date. What is today? 29th. June the 29th. Okay, this is good discussions today. Next item is announcement. There is lunch at Sequoia High School gym today celebrating the Sequoia Summer Showcase. And then Mr. Baker has an announcement there. We have lunch here somewhere.
Hold on. Hot dogs, apple pie, in the Cherokee Nation, June 29th, 11:30 to 1, at the Financial Resources Break Room, right out this back door. And it's last day to register for the state of Oklahoma, and choose your political affiliation, and just good old Cherokee Nation hospitality.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
Move it, your second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, same sign. 1 o'clock. Back here.